Hey guys, so earlier this morning I got a comment from the user Jan Lawrence Asturias that was asking me if I can make a 6x6 flying door in 1.17. So it is possible. My initial reaction was, it is possible. I am now about 5 hours into the process of figuring it out, and I don't think it's possible anymore. So I'll show you what I've got here. My initial design was for a 4x4 door because of the piston push limit. Essentially, each of these flying machines can only carry 4 extra blocks. So, 2 door blocks and 2 to carry it is what I opted for. The way I got around this, however, was to use gravity blocks. So instead of needing to actually carry these with blocks, I can just have gravity do the work for me. And this is a great solution, except for the fact that I can't use gravity affected blocks for the top 2x6 area because flying machines just won't carry that. So although there is a slight difference between the blocks, I got it about as close as I could. I tried messing around with flying machines for about 2 hours, seeing if I could come up with a better design, but all of the designs I came up with aren't as reliable as this one. And even this one can glitch out sometimes. So here's what I came up with is this door right here. Activation methods and everything. This is ready to go. But I can tell you with 90% certainty, even 95% certainty, that this is not going to work. And the reason for that is because in Bedrock Edition, redstone is super glitchy, super buggy, super inconsistent. So even though that these lamps are fired at exactly the same time, for some reason some will be given priority over others. The more flying machines you make, the more chances for it to break. So each slice in itself is very consistent, but when you add all of them together, they're not super consistent. And I haven't really tried this out too much yet, so I'm not sure. It could end up working, but the chances of it failing are so much higher than the chances of it working. Before I break it, let me show you how I made it. So first things first. Okay, all of this white concrete and redstone is just the activation. Because I can't edit my videos at this point, it was just easier for me to build this preemptively rather than after I show you how to build it. So all it is just redstone lines connecting to the torches with the same timing, so they light up at the same time on both sides. So let's get into making the flying machines. First we want to come 6 blocks up, and on the 7th block we want a slime block. The reason we come 6 blocks up is just to give it clearance so it can fly downwards. Alternatively, you could also dig a hole into the ground, etc. So we want to place down 4 slime blocks in a line. On the first slime block, we want an observer to be powering that block. So when this is updated, it can power a piston, like that. Then we want an observer to see when this piston is firing and trigger a sticky piston. From that sticky piston, we just need a line of 4 blocks, and then the exact same thing. Observer powering a block, which powers a piston, another observer detecting that piston firing, and then a sticky piston to move the whole device. The next thing is to build the actual door. So we want to come up by 4 blocks. These are the gravity affected blocks. And then 2 just regular solid blocks. Now what we want is this sort of L shape. So 4 blocks long, 3 blocks wide. And we're just going to build another flying machine. This observer powers this block, which powers a piston. Observer detects that. Sticky piston pushes the next slice out. Again, just need an observer facing away from that slime block, powering a piston with another observer coming off of it, and a sticky piston to retract it. So this is the completed flying machine door right here. And to trigger it, I need to trigger this observer and that observer at the same time to open it, and this observer and that observer at the same time to close it. So let's see how it works here. I made the very, very bad idea of building this pretty much right on a chunk border, so it might not work, but let's give it a go. And that is the danger of chunk borders. Sometimes it's just not going to work out very well. So whenever you're building with flying machines, you want to keep as much as you can in the center of a chunk border. But let's just try opening it one more time and see if we can make that work. There we go. So that's its open state. And if we press this button over here, it should close back up. So that's it in theory. The theory behind all this redstone is perfect. I've been over it over and over again. I've tried to remake this video probably about 12 times now, I'm going to be honest, because I just have small issues that keep happening, and I want to make sure that it has some semblance of quality. So each of these slices, in theory, works perfectly. I've been over making sure all the observers are correct, all the pistons are correct, everything, timings is perfect. But I can almost guarantee you that when I flick this lever, it's not going to work. So what's probably going to happen is one slice of the flying machine is going to move first, and components are going to stick to the side. So we'll end up with this sort of like random just staircase effect. Something like that, where certain ones will get stuck to each other and the whole thing will just break. But let's see. So here's the open lever. And immediately you can see that it broke itself. So there's nothing really that you can do to prevent this. It's just the nature of how random flying machines and update order priority is. So I'll try turning it off again here. And nothing is going to happen on the bottom because it's completely broken. I did prepare for this, however. So let's go into a backup that I have, an exact copy of this world, and see if we get a different result, just to sort of demonstrate how random it is. I'm sure you saw which slices immediately broke and sort of the pattern we had at the end when it did destroy itself. Let's go into the copy that I made earlier. And I really want this to work. I've spent some time, I've spent some effort, I've spent some thought, and ideally this should work because in theory it does. Everything is perfect. But in practice, this is our result. You see how it broke in a completely different way than the last time? I've used this about twice before starting this video, and normally it gets much further than this. Normally it ends up binding down here somewhere, but this is binding right off the get-go. Just further proof of how random everything is. So although this door is completely in theory possible, in actuality it's just too unreliable. So don't build this in your world. Don't try and build this in a survival world, most definitely not. But don't be afraid to mess around with it and try and see if you can make it work. It's just an interesting problem. So thank you again to Jan. I really appreciate the suggestion, and I definitely am open to trying to make your guys' ideas happen. Unfortunately, this one was a catastrophe. But at any rate, I've been Kobe with Blacksmith Gaming. Thanks for watching, and take care.